Ohio State had their annual spring pillow fight. Did we learn anything from the pillow fight? Um, I'll tell you what I learned. A whole lot of pretty much nothing from Ohio State. This was one of the games that I felt like I really didn't learn a whole lot, Mason. I felt like Tennessee affirmed my thoughts on them. I don't think I learned a lot from that game either. I think it just kind of affirmed some beliefs that I already had in my mind about Tennessee. I think we learned something from the Georgia game. I think we learned from the Alabama game some things. I don't feel like I learned anything from this Ohio State game. Will Howard had a pretty decent day. I think that's very clearly your quarterback number one there. And you got a couple of young quarterbacks who got their beak wet a little bit out there, and probably learned a little lesson about what college football is all about. I kind of had a tough day for Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan, but that's to be expected. That's what you want to see out of your freshmen. You want to see them taking chances and learning lessons out there, and I think that was good. But my opinion of Ohio State hasn't changed. Now, the reason I called it a pillow fight is because there was a lot of not even tackling going on. There was literal two-hand touch going on. I don't know. I mean, for a team that, you heard it after the Notre Dame game last year. This is the perfect example. They beat Notre Dame in a very gritty game. And as we turned out, we figured out Notre Dame wasn't even really that good, right? But at the time, everybody had been saying Ohio State's soft. They're not physical. This isn't a physical football team. And they go out and they win a gritty game. And Coach Ryan Day, first thing he said was, basically F Lou Holtz, first of all. Let me just get that out there. I mean, he was just like, old bastard, old bag of bones bastard, that was pretty physical to me, and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. And I like moments like that. I like when coaches are honest with us. But doesn't this just kind of play into the whole narrative of it being a bit of a soft program? And look, Ohio State's a damn good football team, guys. Okay, don't get it twisted. Ohio State's a damn good football team, but they do have a reputation of being soft, and this seems pretty soft in my opinion. I have to call it like I see it. Why are we not tackling, Mason?
Well, according to Urban Meyer, this is how they practice too. So, I don't know.
We saw USC do this last year, and what happened?
Right.
We saw this exact thing.
Right. Coming from a Georgia fan, it seems bizarre to practice and not tackle, at all. That doesn't add up. Now, that being said, Ohio State may very well have a better defense than Georgia does. I mean, let's be real. This is one of the best defenses that Ohio State has ever had. One of the best secondaries that Ohio State has ever had, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I'm anxious to see where it sort of ranks after the season unfolds and is played among the best defenses that we've seen recently. A lot of returning talent. You couple that with the Caleb Downs, which was the biggest recruit to ever hit the transfer portal, in my opinion, and definitely the biggest of this past recruiting cycle. And could very well be the difference. And I was thinking about this earlier. If Georgia and Ohio State are playing in a national championship, right? Those are the two best teams in the country, no doubt. Right now, I mean, that's not my opinion. That's like kind of a fact amongst college football circles. The two best teams right now, if you were to tell me that Georgia and Ohio State played for a national championship, I would say that happened exactly like I thought it does, which college football doesn't tend to unfold that way, where things go just like you think they will. But ultimately, let's say hypothetically Georgia, Ohio State are playing a national championship. Caleb Downs may be the reason that Georgia loses against Ohio State and that Ohio State beats Georgia. A guy who leaves Alabama, everybody thinks he's going to Georgia to follow his coach. He ends up slipping out the back door and going and having an affair with Ohio State, and ends up marrying the gal. So, but it's just, how ironic would it be if he's the reason that they win, and beat Georgia in the national championship? And it could happen. And of course, Ohio State would love that, if their money literally paid off, at that point. So, um, but you couple him with an already very talented defense, and you've got a recipe for one of the best defenses that we've seen recently. I'm sure of it, and I don't think that this game really showed me anything other than that. I think that the secondary was very sticky on some really good wide receivers. They're going to be tough to handle for any team. So, um, from this, like you said, it was soft. It was two-hand touch, I guess, but ultimately, I don't have any doubts about this defense. My question is the offensive line. I think that we still have questions about the offensive line that are fair. I don't know that we learned anything from that, and I don't know that we really learned anything from the quarterback room, other than I think that it's pretty safe to say, based off of the spring game, right? Which I'm drawing a lot, I'm speculating a lot, but that I think it's safe to say that Ohio State overspent on Will Howard. I don't think that he is going to pan out to be, worth over $1 million a year, type of quarterback. I think in college football, that is a first or second round quarterback, and Will Howard, based off of his play so far, is not a first or second round quarterback. Now they may have one on their roster. I don't know if they'll be ready to play this year. But a Julian Sayin, Aaron Nolan, that they might eventually be a first round draft pick, but they're not going to be ready, to play this year and win a national championship, which is what Ohio State's looking for. To me, I didn't see much difference between Will Howard and Devin Brown. Seemed like pretty much the same player. I couldn't tell them apart if they didn't have different numbers on their jersey.
Yeah.
Will Howard's just a little bit bigger, but that's about it. So, which was disappointing. I've been really high on Will Howard. I think that, I've been saying that he's never played with the talent that he has at Ohio State right now. So, at receiver. So, I had this opinion drawn up that he was going to come into Ohio State, play really well, and play himself into a first or second day draft pick. I don't know. I don't know that he's not necessarily, but this spring game certainly leads me to believe that he is nothing more than a game manager at this point for Ohio State, and not necessarily a playmaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of boils down to, um, can Ohio State take the 2021 approach that the Georgia Bulldogs did to winning a national championship, right? Really good defense, a good run game, and don't screw it up throwing the ball around. I kind of feel like that's the recipe right now. And we saw Igbuka make an amazing catch in the spring game. That was insane.
He's going to have a great year.
Yeah, and I think he will have a great year. Is this offensive line going to hold off pass rush good enough for Will Howard to be able to drop back and get it down the field in long chunks? I don't see that offense working this way. I just don't. In the intermediate passing game, he's got to obviously going to be hot route number one, right? Igbuka is going to be a main attraction and a mainstay on this offense, no doubt about it. But I don't know that I see this team transforming into a bomb you over the top style. I just don't know that I see Will Howard fitting that mold. And beyond that, Chip Kelly loves to run the football, and they've got the best running back room in the nation, in my opinion. So I think that are they good enough to take that formula that I just talked about, run the ball very effectively, and play really good defense and win a championship? I think that there's one speed bump that they got to get over, and I think that's the Oregon Ducks within their own conference. To get to where they're wanting to go as far as getting a great seed in the playoff and making a run at a national championship, I think you're going to have to beat Oregon twice. And I think that'd be pretty tough to do. But they can still make it without beating Oregon at all. They can still make the playoffs. So there's a path there. I'm curious to see how this style of team. It's going to be, I think, a little more conservative, kind of like last year. I think it's more of a conservative approach. I just think that you've got a little bit better talent level to go around, and definitely a better game manager quarterback than Honda McCord last year, Kyle Honda McCord. So not bad. It's not a bad thing for this Ohio State. I think it's just this Ohio State team. I think it's just different. I think it's a little different than what we got used to. You know, seeing them air the ball out and throw the ball all over the field with C.J. Stroud, who we now know is just an unbelievable quarterback. That makes all the sense in the world now that we've seen him in another light. That makes total sense. But this team, I think it's going to be between them and Oregon in the Big Ten, and I cannot wait to see that matchup this season.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm interested for any Ohio State fans listening. Let us know what you think about your quarterback. Who do you think the quarterback will be? Is Devin Brown going to step up? And and receive some playing time. Also, I know there were talks about Cam Ward coming to Ohio State. I mean, how different would we be talking about Ohio State had Cam Ward ended up in the program? That was one that I think if Ohio State was a little bit more patient, they probably end up getting. But obviously, they weren't going to sit around on their hands and not go get a quarterback. But my understanding is that Will Howard was paid similarly to what Cam Ward was. Had a similar price tag. So I think it's fair to compare the two and wonder what could have been.